I'll call to order the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee meeting Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, in the Council Chamber of City Hall at 5:30 p.m. Identify any potential conflict of interest. Being none, citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments? Citizen comments. Item number 4, consent agenda. Minutes of November 19th, 2019 meeting, monthly position, control report, bills and payroll. A motion to approve. A motion by Rebecca, second by Nick. Any discussion? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, item number 6, request to recommend approval resolution 2019-52 approving a committed fund balance classifications for continuing appropriations for fiscal year 2020 to be carried over into 2020. Presented by Ron Allman, Finance Director. Ron.
All right, thank you, Peter. So this is our annual continuing appropriations from the general fund to carry over into the next year. It's a two-step process, so this is the estimated part. So we have the request here, and if approved, we make a journal entry to reserve a part of our fund balance. And then the second step is after the numbers are final for 2019, we verify that there was enough funds actually to cover that. So we adjusted from there. So the categories, the reason there are carryovers, there's a couple of reasons. One is some are required by statute, such as the library operations. Some are multi-year projects, such as the information systems projects. And some items are just didn't get completed in 2020, such as the 5-year financial plan is still ongoing. We had budgeted for 19. It looks like we'll be billed for that in 2020. Nuisance abatement, we didn't use it up, and that could pop up at any time. So it's a mix of required items, multi-year items, and statutory items. So I'll take any questions or look for a motion to approve.
A motion by Rebecca, seconded by Nick. Discussion. Tom.
Thank you. It looks as though the non-spendable is drastically increased from previous years.
Correct. So this is, we're talking continuing appropriations here. I think that you're talking about the
Oh, is that the next?
agenda item number 8.
Sorry.
Yep. So we'll get to that. So this is the
kind of blends together. It's all
yep.
numbers.
So this is will be a component of what we talk about there.
Okay, if there are no other questions, there's a motion and second on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? None? Motion carries. Item number 7, review and possible approval of various insurance renewals for 2020, introduced by Ron Allman, Finance Director, and presented by Daryl Zaleski, Spectrum Insurance Group.
Thank you. Typically what happens is Daryl sends us the renewal, and then I write a memo to the council for approval. And last year we said it'd be nice to have Daryl just come tell a little bit about what they do and present in person. So Daryl's going to introduce Matt with him also, and kind of hand out a folder of information and walk us through it.
Would you please go to
the podium so we can hear you.
Wow.
Would have known that, it would have better. Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, just thank you for having us up here tonight. And when Ron suggested that we do this, I thought it was a wonderful idea, because a lot of times we, while we deal a lot with the staff on the insurance on an annual and a regular basis, a lot of times the city council or members of council don't always get a chance to hear what's going on from the insurance standpoint, and the council obviously does turn over, and so there's always a revolving door as far as who knows what about the insurance. And so I think it's a wonderful idea to have access to your insurance agent and to ask questions. And tonight I've got the renewal, and as Ron said, typically what happens is I will get together with Ron and Amy. We gather the information to get the renewal, and then we meet and present, and then again Ron brings it to you for approval. And I think showing you what the insurance actually looks like is a really good idea. To take it one step further, what we also have tonight, which is a really great opportunity for you, is that we have the new CEO for your insurance company, Matt Becker, here. And Matt has graciously, obviously, was able to show up tonight. And I thought it would be nice for Matt to kind of give an overall big picture of the insurance company that the city marshal has been with for a number of years. So I'll just take a very brief background, and then I'll turn over to Matt for a couple minutes. How much time do we have, Ron? I don't want to. This is really riveting stuff. I understand insurance is you're all on the edge of your seats here, but I also don't want to bore anybody by taking too much time up. So it's not a Monday night
You have
football.
5 minutes, sir.
Pardon?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. We're going to really have to zip through. You're with the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Mutual Insurance, and I'm not sure many of you know that, but obviously the city of Marshfield is a member of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. League of Wisconsin Municipality has their own insurance company. It's an association plan, okay? Association plans typically will offer broader coverages, very competitive pricing, because it's owned by the association. It's in place for the benefit of its members. And so you've been with the league program. I tried to look back. I see we've paid dividends since 2006, but I know for a fact that the city goes back with the League of Wisconsin Municipalities back in a day when a commercial insurance company insured the city. It was called Wausau Insurance. Many of you remember Wausau Insurance. I actually worked for Wausau Insurance and worked with municipalities for over 30 years. Your agent way back in the day was Dwayne Helgerson, a local member of the community here who's long since retired, and Wausau is no longer with us. It's owned by Liberty Mutual. But there was a falling out between Wausau and the league about 2002, and that's when the league started its own insurance company with some money that was set aside in trust. And that's where we are at today, that you are with and have been with for, my gosh, probably 20, 30 years at least, is with either the endorsed program from the league or the actual insurance company known as League of Wisconsin Municipalities Mutual Insurance. I call it League Insurance. So I'm going to let Matt speak for a couple minutes, give a big picture of the league program, understand the insurance company that you're with and what it's all about. And I think it's, again, a great opportunity for you to hear firsthand from the CEO of the insurance company. So Matt.
Well, good evening, everyone. This will take no less than an hour and a half because this is my passion. But thanks for having me here. I'm the new guy. So the new Dennis is what I get. Big shoes to fill, all these comments. But basically, I come from Illinois, so I'm really grateful to be in Wisconsin now. Much better place to be. But I spent the last 13 years running a similar public entity program in Illinois for cities, villages, counties, such forth. And I kind of just fell into it almost. It's kind of a specialty of the company I worked for. And I love it. You know, I love that most municipal business is in a member-owned program just like ours. And I really take that to heart. So know that my philosophy is this is your program. It's operated for your benefit. There's no stockholders, shareholders, executives trying to get bonuses out of this. It's for you guys. So if we do well, you guys do well. The league itself is doing quite well at this point. You know, the last 2 years have been the best years we've ever had, paid a couple of the highest dividends we've ever had. And this year is looking very much similar. So financially, very strong. Daryl kind of alluded to our coverage, which I think is probably the biggest feature that you'll see. I've done all the comparisons against the competitors out there, and I'll stand here and say that we have the best coverage form out there. Very strong. So that's what you guys pay for. And I kind of take the view as it's your program. We have good coverage. So when something happens, we try and find a way to pay your claim, not deny your claim. Just kind of dissimilar from kind of the general for-profit insurance market. So those are kind of the big overall things I believe in, you know, and kind of how we want to run this program. And I'll say that you've got a fantastic representative in Daryl helping you guys out, very experienced, knows what he's doing, and one of the best agents we have on our program. So going forward, you'll see a lot of the same, as well as some more kind of interactive services from us. You know, we're going to be rolling out some more HR services, more on the employee safety, some stuff on first responder work comp injuries. So cyber, keep these things in mind because these are all going to be coming out, and I think a great resource for you guys, and all going to be at no cost to you guys, included as part of the week. So that's kind of a quick summary. I know Daryl's got good news on the renewal numbers. I did look at a few things, you know, over the past 5 years since this is the finance committee. You guys love the numbers. In the last 5 years, we've given back about 280 grand in dividends back to the city. So I think that's fantastic and shows that, you know, we back up what we say is if we do good, we're going to give that right back. We're not out to make a profit. So.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? None.
And if there are any, call Daryl, call me. You can always call me.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Daleski and Mr. Becker. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks.
Again, thank you, gentlemen.
Steve, I think he's going to walk through it. I think he wants to walk through this.
So I'm not going to go over the details of the renewal, but I want to talk in a couple general terms about the renewal. And Ron's got it, and Ron and Amy will go through it in greater detail. One of the things that I wanted to follow up with on Matt's comments was that, you know, this member-owned insurance company that you're with, one of the things that's probably one of the most important things for you to understand is that the board of directors of the insurance company is made up of your peers. And so what I mean by that is people like you that are on the board. So locally, we have the city of Wisconsin Rapids, Zach Verwink is on the board of directors. So what the league does is take board of directors, and there's a clerk from Rice Lake. They spread out the board of directors from all over the state, and they are your board of directors. And so why that's important is that your board is making decisions in your best interest. It's not a board that's made up of an insurance company that has stockholders and looking out for their best interests. It's truly an insurance company that is dictated by you. And if you're unhappy with something that the league does, you have direct representation where you can then talk to the board of directors and say, hey, I am not happy with this, or we need to look at doing this, or the company needs to evolve to offer this coverage. And so it's a very unique program where you have that on your board of directors made up of people just like you. So very, very important. So, okay. In general, I'm not going to go through the proposal. I don't think we can talk in general terms.
Yep, we can talk in general, and we'll write it up in a standard memo.
Yeah. So you've got the numbers. The bottom line is that the renewal or the premiums, they're down roughly, I believe it's $60,000 this year. I wrote the number down. I just want to give you the number. And it's not that I did anything fantastic this year and negotiated and put Matt under the coals. And it's actually down $84,000 this year. So congratulations on that. One of the main reasons it's down is that you have workers' compensation coverage. Okay? And we're insuring the workers if they get injured. Okay. There's a mechanism in workers' comp that customizes your premium to your claim. And it's called an experience mod factor. The city's experience mod factor went down 20 points it's going down 20 points effective 1/1/2020. It's going from it's 19 points, going from 1.05 to a 0.86. So that relates in your workers' comp premium, that's almost $100,000 reduction in your workers' comp premium. So first of all, that's a congratulations to the city and the staff because you're operating a very safe work environment for your employees. And Jen and Deb, that's really great. You know, you guys are a lot of times you're leading that charge on safety. And so congratulations. It's, you know, you're saving a lot of money on your workers' comp now. So the LEAG program offers the liability insurance. So somebody gets injured in the city, bodily injury, property damage, and they sue the city. Okay, that's bodily injury or property damage. That's what we're insuring on your behalf. We insure the law enforcement liability, wrongful arrest, false imprisonment, anything in police operations. Okay, all the autos, all the buildings, all the property insurance, and then specifically for you, it directs to you is the public officials liability. So we insure your decisions that you make as a council or as a committee, okay? So, you know, zoning issues are a lot of the bigger claims that we have in public officials liability. So you deny a zoning and you get sued because of that. Those are some of our biggest claims. The developer ends up suing the city. And you've probably have all had the Walmart, the Menards, the big box tax. They sue over their tax. They want to tax as a black building. I think they call it a vacant building. We defend you on those claims. We provide $50,000 of the defense, and I'm sure we've defended you on multiple of these lawsuits. I've had one city where I think Menard sues them every year, and we seem to be paying $50,000 to defend them every year on that tax lawsuit. So one of the other things that we insure you, and again, it's decisions that you make, are wrongful termination, or you know, somebody sues for a wrongful termination. It's called employment practice liability. So either a staff or however it works for you, you terminate an employee, they sue and say, you fired me incorrectly, or I didn't get due process, or well, again, there's damage awards. We pay that. But again, in most cases, we pay for the defense of those claims. So again, it's very, very broad coverage. It again is second to none in the industry. So any questions on any of what I've gone over? I talked very briefly about the buildings, the properties. A couple years ago, the league, well, not the league, but municipalities were insured with the local government property fund. It used to be called the state fund. It went belly up a couple years ago. If you recall, the legislature raided the fund and took a lot of the money out, or gave rebates, returned it to you, but also took the money out. And they also had some large claims in the city of Milwaukee or Milwaukee County. I don't know if you remember, Matt, what it was, but large claims, $50 million claim. So the state fund was going bankrupt. And so it was going to leave the cities in quite a lurch. And so, again, one of the beauties of your association plan is that in the matter of a couple of months, the league was able to help form a new property insurance company called Municipal Property Insurance Company. We call it MPIC. And that's who you're insured with for your property insurance. The league owns a third of that company. But we were able to respond to your needs literally in 2 to 3 months to get an insurance company registered and approved in the state of Wisconsin in that short a time is incredible. And the overriding goal of MPIC, like league insurance, is to have price stability, to stabilize that market so we don't have these swings of premiums going way up and then premiums going way down. So we want to be able to budget every year for your, to make it easy so Ron doesn't have to come and say, we're over budget on the insurance this year. And so that is an overriding factor for Matt at League, but also for MPIC at the property insurance. So he's not the CEO of the property company. I believe you're on the board, though, or you will be on the board of directors there. So they work side by side. So that's kind of the program in a very, very general, high view. I like to, if you've got access to insurance experts, I'd love for you to ask some questions. I don't know if you guys know that you have wonderful immunities in the state of Wisconsin for a municipality, recreational immunity. You run city parks. You're immune from prosecution if somebody gets injured in a park, as long as you're not charging a fee. So those are really great. There's a really great immunity, and you have discretionary immunity in a lot of cases. And that's afforded to you by the legislature because nobody else is going to run a city. And so in order for you to run a city, you have to have certain immunities. And we have a great statutory cap in Wisconsin for governmental entities. So when we talk about the liability insurance, bodily injury, property damage that's caused, you injure somebody. In Wisconsin, the most somebody can recover is $50,000 per claimant. So you're on the hook, your insurance company, is on the hook for $50,000 on a bodily injury claim when it stays in the state court system. Okay? That's really low, and I'm not here to, we're not here to debate whether that's too low or what, but just know that the most somebody can recover for a bodily injury claim against the city is $50,000. Auto liability is $250,000, okay? Where we lose our state cap protection is when it goes to federal court, okay? So think of your law enforcement liability, the police operations. Those typically go to federal court because there's usually a violation of someone's civil rights, okay? So those will go into the federal court and we lose our state cap protection. So we don't have that $50,000 limit. And also most of the public officials' liability claims, where I talked about the employment claims, the zoning claims, those typically almost always go into federal court. So again, that's where we have those high dollar awards are on public officials' claims when there's a wrongful termination, zoning. I think our largest claims are the zoning claims, correct? From 3 of our top 5 are zoning claims, developers that have sued. So does that make sense to everybody? I'd love to have you ask some questions. We're here. We'd love to answer those burning questions that you've had about the insurance. I went back a little further than Matt did. I went back and I looked, I had a little summary that Matt had mentioned dividends, and maybe I'll take just a minute to explain what we mean by dividends. Yeah. Go right ahead.
Be a number of different things. Depends on the allegations. A lot of times, it's a developer says, okay, you've halted my project, or you've delayed it with your decision, you've denied my permit, whatever it is, you've cost me, X amount of revenue that I was going to make on the project. And that's how it can get out of control, as well as they usually last many years. So the attorney's fees really racked up. It's not unheard of to spend $200,000 on a land use.
Is it based on some meeting thing about going on?
It can be about anything. You don't even have to actually do anything wrong, but if they think you did, it doesn't stop them from being able to do you. So a lot of times we run into conflict of interest issues too. Someone on the committee or something is alleged to their brother owns the developer, or owns someone who owns the land, something like that. And they're not recusing themselves type situation is where we see a lot of kind of just.
Can I do it change going?
So we find that, you're in the best position if you've followed your ordinance to the T, right? And that you haven't varied from that. And then if there's no conflict of interest, we're usually in a good spot. It's when those things break down, or people allege that they broke down, that it can get out of.
Any further questions?
So think of it this way, and to further clarify that comment. And what Matt is referring to is, a lot of times you as you're judiciary in nature, and let's say that there's a new development close to your house, and you're talking to your neighbors and you're saying, we're not going to let this thing go through. I'm going to do what I can to stop this. And you're doing that in that ex parte environment where you're not acting in a judiciary manner. And then that's where that conflict of interest comes in. It's like, I don't like that developer. We're going to make sure and not pass this. That's happened. That's happened multiple times. Not saying it's going to happen here,
Right.
but those are some of those big dollar words is when somebody's acting outside of their scope.
Sometimes you get into, violation of open meetings or kind of the negative forum type issues. Kind of manifests itself in many ways.
And the city gets individually, even though they're acting out of, and they don't.
Well, if you got sued individually and the city, we're going to defend both parties. You acting as a member of the board or the council and the city. An attorney's probably going to name you individually and the city. We will defend both.
Yep. So you're covered personally as long as you're acting with the scope of your duties. We will defend. That's a good.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So know that you're
I'm not
personally.
worried about you doing that.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. You should never, as long as you're acting within the scope of your duties, if you get sued individually, the city's insurance is always going to defend you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So we've actually paid back $587,000 in total dividends. Now, what that means is you have to think of the league program as a pool, a pot of money. So all the cities and villages in the state of Wisconsin, think of it as pooling their money. You put it into a pot at the beginning of the year, and then we pay claims out of that pot, okay? And expenses are paid, okay? And in a very simplistic way, whatever money is left in that pot at the end of the year, if it performed better than we anticipated, we return that money to the members, okay? And so, one, we try to have very competitive premiums upfront. So you're not paying too much and then getting money back. But the program has performed so well that, again, being a member-owned association plan, its ultimate goal is to return as much money as possible while still keeping our statutory surplus requirements and having a financially sound company. But it's to be able to sit here and say we've returned almost $600,000 when that's not ultimately our goal. Our goal is to have upfront pricing right away, and then still to have the overall program perform so well all these years. It's an amazing program that has performed well. And our CEO, our original CEO, Dennis Tweedale, maybe some of you have heard of him, founded the program, is retiring at the end of the year, and Matt has been hired to replace him. So Dennis, very well known. Matt is going to do an excellent job, comes with a wealth of experience. They did a national search for the replacement of Dennis, and so obviously a very, very qualified individual in Matt. So we expect the league program to continue to perform really well. And I think Matt's going to bring a couple additional services available to the city, which are going to be really cool, some HR assistance. And Jen, I don't know if you used our training center, the videos yet. I know you registered for them. Yeah, it's a wonderful program that you have access to. So I'm going to wrap it up. But again, love to answer any questions that you have.
Go ahead.
I'll stick around for a while, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Steve?
Yeah, just kind of tied together. First of all, thanks, Daryl and Matt. Appreciate you guys being here and appreciate you staying around for a couple minutes for other questions. And we thank the league staff who's always done a great job in this insurance effort for the city and other communities. Also, want to touch on the experience mod for the workers' comp. What a great piece of news that is. Jen, thank you for your work on that. And I think Steve from MEUW has been a great service to us. I want to commend the council for supporting us going into the MEUW program to try and promote better safety in the workplace. Some of it is just luck. You have fewer incidents one year from the other, but I think a lot of what we're seeing is an effort to try and reduce and minimize workers' comp claims, and it looks like it may be paying off. So just wanted to commend everybody involved with that. We did put on the agenda review and possible approval of these insurance renewals, but you've been handed a pretty big packet of information. What I'd like to do is have Ron go through it, boil it down, and bring you a memo and recommendation on December 17th for your consideration. The council meets later that same night, so one-stop shopping that evening. We can perhaps tie this together. You've obviously heard good news, so it's not like we're going over 50% increases or something. It's very positive, but we'll bring it to you at that time.
Thank you. All right, let's move on with the agenda, please. Item number 8, review of the general fund balance and components, presented by Ron Allman, Finance Director. Ron.
All right, thank you. This is kind of a series of informational items wanted to bring along. I think it's most important for Finance Committee to understand our debt position, TIDS, and our fund balance and what the components are. And I think the most confusing thing that came up out of our audit was we said our fund balance went up, and then in the next sentence they said, well, our unassigned fund balance, where we have a policy of 25 to 30%, dropped to 11%. They seem like they contradict each other. So what I did is I put together this memo that talks about the components of our fund balance. The second page has a history of what it's been over the last 20 years and kind of what the future is. So the 3 parts of our fund balance are let's start with the committed fund balance. That's the amount that we have for continuing appropriations, which we approved earlier in the meeting. So that's just a part that's set aside for those continuing appropriations. The unassigned is the part that we can spend on that's not restricted for any other purpose. And that's the amount where we have a city policy between 25 and 30%, where it's currently 11. So the big change, and you'll see it when we look at the next page, is the non-spendable fund balance. So what happened is, for a long time, we've had TIDs that had negative cash, but until you really pulled back and looked at them, I don't think that we understood what it was. So what used to happen is the TIDs were considered just a everyday kind of due to, due from, kind of like we have with the utilities. Like we owe them some money, they owe us some money, we pay it back on a regular basis. And what caused the auditors to reclassify it is that they basically reclassified it from a short term, kind of this day-to-day back and forth, to a long term. So when we cleaned it up, they looked at it and said, well, it's going to be, 3 or 4 or 5 years before the TIDs can pay back this negative cash, even though they're cash flowing very well. So that caused them to reclassify it from unassigned and just kind of this working operating item to non-spendable. The third page, we talk about how we kind of get that back. So the non-spendable fund balance really represents what's current. The easiest way to think of it, it's the negative cash that is in TID 5 and TID 7. So if you think of that, that's the easiest way to think of it. So then naturally we'll get that back as they're profitable or through some other means. And then down at the bottom, I just have some notes. There are some additional classifications, but we currently don't have any of those classifications, so we kind of skipped over them for now. If you go to the second page, it's a lot of numbers, but if you really look at the far 2 right columns, you can see the total and the unassigned are real similar. If you start at the bottom at 2001 and work your way up, you can see that the total and unassigned are very similar, which makes sense because really the only difference is going to be the continuing appropriations until you get to 2018. And you can see where the reclassification of that large amount from unassigned to non-spendable kind of changes the whole picture of everything. And just a note down too is I took the dollar amounts off the audit reports. Sometimes if you're looking at an individual audit report, the rounding percentage might be slightly different. But so we've got the totals here. So if you look at the 2018 line, it kind of supports what was said at the audit. Our total fund balance went up, but our unassigned dropped dramatically because of that reclassification. And then on the third page, I kind of talk about, what we're trying to do there is kind of separate what are the one-time items versus what's sustainable. So in 2018, our total fund balance went up largely due to the large entry we made for the interest, kind of all the back interest on the TIDs. That was kind of a one-time thing. In 2019, we also have the sale of our old building, which is a one-time item. But in 19, 20, and 21, we should expect our total fund balance to drop because we are budgeting fund balance applied. It will continue to drop until we, balance out the general fund and the debt service. One additional note is, I think during the budget process, we talked about the fund balance applied in the debt service and the general fund. And I always talk about them together because typically we would fully fund our debt service. We're kind of this unusual position that we aren't. Because if the debt service isn't funded, it comes out of the general fund eventually anyway. So I group them together when I'm talking about fund balance because they're both our responsibility of the city. So on bullet point number 5, kind of talk about how we get back the non-spendable into the unassigned, which is what we want. So then at the end of 2018, we had the TIDs in those various positions. TID 4 had a ton of cash. TID 5 and 7 had negative cash in advance. So that totals out to $4,192,000 for non-spendable fund balance. Plus there's some other minor things in there that tie it back to the schedule on the previous page. So really what we're trying to do with our TIDs, I said before, is our TIDs with positive cash, we're trying to pay down. So TID 4, when we refinanced, we didn't take out additional debt. TID 5 and 7 are profitable, and we're trying to donor and get as much cash back into TIDs 5 and 7 as possible. So it'll naturally come back because they're profitable. We're donor transferring money in. And then in TID 7, we just took a $750,000 state trust fund loan for the rail spur project. So that's all adding back to a positive cash. So that will come up a lot in 19, and then it'll come up very significantly in 2020 because there will be no more expenditures in those TIDs. And I was going to print it out, but I did print it out. So TID 5 in the budget, we have a surplus of $660,000 in TID 5 and a surplus of $690,000 in TID 7 in 2020. So all those dollars coming back in will drive down our non-spendable fund balance and get it back into assigned. So 2020, kind of the same thing, that we have budgeted surpluses, no expenditures really, so it's just we're paying our debt and collecting the increment on them, and then kind of riding it out. So 2 things will happen going forward is our non-spendable will decrease and hopefully that'll get down to 0. And then going forward, it won't happen again because any future TID will fund as we go along. So we shouldn't be in this position anymore. And then the total fund balance, which is a little more concerning, will continue to decrease until we balance both our funds. So like the debt, you don't have to read through everything in here, but it's nice to refer back to. So when we talk about this the next time, especially 2021 budget, which will probably be even more challenging, you kind of have a baseline to compare. So a lot of information, open to any questions you might have.
Any questions from the committee? I have a question. I've been here for about 10 years now, and so have some of my colleagues too. And I think what you're doing to educate us of what's happening is great. And I think education will pay off if you continue to do that, because I, as a member of that council, felt someone responsible for the pillage and plunder of these TIDs. Sorry, I had to do. But I think if you can, in the future, give us the profit and loss on these TIDs on a regular basis so we get a better understanding what money is earned, what money is expended for the welfare of the community. So any other questions?
Not a question, but just to add, this is good information for this committee, but it's also good information for the entire council. And I talked to Ron about this the other day. I'm going to send out an email to the other council members who are not on finance, budget, and personnel. And I'm going to point out some of these recent meetings where Ron has done these types of presentations here at the end of meetings, education type things, and point them to what part of the meeting they're at so that they can hopefully watch them at home. We decided to do these in this setting rather than the council because the council meeting agendas sometimes get kind of long. It's easier to walk through it here, but everyone should hear the information he's presented in the last 4 or 5 meetings because it's good background, and I will encourage all the members who aren't present here to do so.
If there are no further questions, next item on the agenda is suggested items for future agenda. Being none, we adjourned.